Now, you were right in everything you said a moment ago, Jeff, as to the fact that the pipe itself is literally deteriorating because of the extreme amount of abrasives that are hitting it. And, yeah, you're right, it probably is a half of its size at this time. Plumes have been discovered 5 to 20 miles away. Let me give you one that you can verify for yourself. Senator Bill Nelson, Democrat from Florida, on June the 9th, he appeared on MSNBC, interviewed by Andrea Mitchell, and he said, oil is seeping up from the seabed. Now, National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration also admitted on the, it was the 8th of June, Chris Baltimore from Houston, Texas, disappeared in Reuters News. U.S. experts investigating reports of undersea oil plumes, and they verified it and said that they could be up to 20 miles away. Now, I'm going to go to the other side of the coin. Enough for those facts. The black oil in the water in the Gulf of Mexico is not the greatest danger. I can tell already, Jeff, that you've done your homework on this. That black stuff is only destroying the ecology. What comes out with that oil gusher is causing the death of humans and unborn babies, and this scares the daylights out of me. Most people think that the only thing that comes out of an oil well is oil. That is the furthest thing in the world from the truth. And it will depend on the particular oil field as to what comes up with that oil. And in this particular one in the Gulf of Mexico, which, of course, they don't have the slightest idea what's down there because they have never drilled into one with this pressure at this depth before. Even Russia didn't have this pressure, even though they went a little bit deeper.
Right.
But what the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, came out with this past week, which Jeff just gave a moment ago, about benzene, let me give you one or two more that they've also classified. And all this, I cannot believe. I mean, it's beyond my comprehension as an honest man and as a minister of the gospel for 40 years that we could have such despotic, evil, wicked people in Washington, D.C. who care so much for their jobs that they aren't willing to tell the American people the truth, yet those people are breathing toxic, flammable items that is going to cause a health hazard that is going to be so horrendous that no health care system in the world could ever afford to take care of it. Now, let me give you what they call this. The EPA calls these volatile organic compounds, and they're in the air in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, I remember as a pilot, I was a pilot for 30 years, and I know that the winds in America, the upper air currents, they travel from northwest to southeast. That means that the Gulf Coast, and particular Florida, is already getting these horrible gases. Let me just list a few of them for you. Number one was hydrogen sulfide. The EPA said that hydrogen sulfide can be breathed in by human beings at a safe level of 5 to 10 parts per billion. They just tested a few days ago, currently 1,200 parts per billion of hydrogen sulfide. Now, the one that Jeff mentioned a moment ago is the one that scares me most. It's benzene. It's toxic, a carcinogen, safe levels, 0. I mean, that's how dangerous the Environmental Protection Agency says it is to 4. Yet they've got 3,000 parts per billion. Let me read you what I found about benzene. Exposure to low levels of benzene can cause dizziness, drowsiness, headaches, confusion, tremors, rapid heartbeat, and unconsciousness. Long-term exposure to benzene can damage the bone marrow, lead to blood problems like leukemia. It also weakens the immune system and targets the organs such as the kidneys, lungs, liver, and brain. Can you imagine the birth defects that are going to appear in unborn babies because of mothers who are breathing this, and our government has not the audacity to go in there and at least warn them what they're breathing. I mean, the least they could do was give them an opportunity to know what they are breathing, and if they want to stay there, they can, and if they want to leave, they can. The next one is methylene chloride. State level, 61 parts per billion. Currently, there are 3,000 to 3,400 parts per billion in the atmosphere, in the Gulf, flowing into the Gulf Coast. People are breathing this. Can you even imagine? Oh, by the way, you did hear that the first tropical depression appeared today and is heading across the ocean.
Sure.
It's a hurricane.
Hurricane Alley, folks. Right in the middle, Lindsay. Hurricane Alley. This is going to be real bad. And I think of the tens of millions of people who are trapped literally in their homes, their mortgages, their lives, their jobs, in the way of unbelievable, potentially disastrous hurricane impacts. Be right back. Return, our final segment already with Lindsey Williams. We covered a lot of ground. Pretty scary stuff, Lindsey. Go right ahead, please. These figures are irrefutable, by the way. This isn't alarmist yellow journalism. These are scientific facts. This is hardcore data with which you must make decisions about what you're going to do or not going to do in the immediate future. The first tropical depression, and I think they're predicting 14 major hurricanes this year, something like that, Lindsey. I wonder how they know that. At any rate, that's another program. It's called HARP. Let's see what happens. Go ahead, please. Let's get the rest of the data on the table here.
One hurricane catching all of those gases, taking all of that oil that's on the surface and pushing it inland, could literally devastate all the way up the east coast of the United States of America. People would be so polluted. There would be so many problems. I can't even imagine of it. Now,
agreed.
I have been somewhat intimated too that even though this was an accident, and I have no questions and no doubt after all the people that I've talked with that this was not done intentionally. Now, they may be allowing it to continue intentionally. That I don't know. They didn't tell me. But it was not intentionally done. But they do plan to use this disaster to accomplish their timeline. Now, Jeff, you'll remember that about a year and a half ago, I appeared on your show just after talking with the 87-year-old gentleman who said, Chaplain, I'm too old to care, just tell them everything. And as a result, I did. I told everything they were going to do. Now, that timeline they intend to keep, and they will have no problem whatsoever keeping that timeline in light of what is happening right now in the Gulf of Mexico. It will easily enable them to do it. In fact, just a moment, I'm going to read you from John Hofmeister, former president of Shell Oil. He wrote a book entitled Why We Hate the Oil Companies. That's a pretty good one. I'm going to tell you what he says. Now, he's out in the news bold with this. And I'm going to tell you in just a moment what he says is going to happen. But first of all, let me tell you what I'm gathering from my sources that you can look forward to in this. What is going to happen to the dollar? Everything that I was told in the timeline that I gave you is going to take place with the dollar, and they can easily do it now. Where will the stock market go? Folks, oh, please, you've got to know this. What about your retirement and Social Security? Where will the price of gold and silver go with all of this happening like that? But I'm going to go a step further. Did you know that only a few hours ago that Saudi Arabia gave permission for Israel to overfly their country in order to go to Iran?
Well, actually,
this
the
was
story
only hours ago.
Yeah,
I just got it a few minutes ago.
Just so you know, the story actually broke yesterday morning. It was then subsequently denied by a Saudi prince. We are still unsure about the firm position of the Saudi government. If it did, in fact, do what you're suggesting and what the stories yesterday morning first suggested, that would, of course, open the door to the attack on Iran. But more than that, Lindsey, we have the Iranian aid ships. There are 2 or 3 of them coming.